Alrighty, folks, I want to have a conversation with Coach Carson about enough. In fact, his presentation at year one of our Vegas event is still the one that people talk about today, where he brought real life examples of enough and what you can do with that. In order to have this conversation, I actually want to start with a post from the one and only Brandon Turner. This is not meant to be an attack. I'm done with that nonsense. This is meant to be, let's have a conversation. Where do we go from here? Coach, let's welcome you to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Good to be here. Thanks, Michael.
Absolutely. Well, let's just get it out on the table. You obviously know Brandon Turner. He's a part of the Bigger Pockets family. You've got a book deal with them. So you know the bearded one, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we've been friends a long time. I haven't spoken to him recently, but yeah, a big part of me getting a book deal and even having the idea to write a book was Brandon helping me out with that. So I feel very indebted for that
Nice.
that help.
Yes, and we're all indebted because your book really has helped people change lives, a small and mighty investor. But hey, let's get to the quote because, again, he's going through it right now, I think. And I want to talk about that, but also help others really understand your view of enough, because I think a lot of people change the goalposts. But here we go. This is from Brandon Turner on Next 3 days ago. Wealth is a useful servant and a vicious God. It can buy time with your family, fund work that matters, and let you give generously. But once money becomes the scoreboard for your worth, enough, and that's in quotes, quietly moves every time you get close. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I like that phrasing. It reminds me. This is actually part of the presentation I gave a couple of years ago, and I hope to expand on this at next year's. By the way, so if people
Yes.
come January, I'm not gonna get away from this topic. This is my topic. I use the example of like Frankenstein as kind of a big business. Like to me, like I wrote the book The Small and Mighty Investor because I've had my own experience touching the fire of going really big or really fast with my businesses. And at least for me, and I think most people who invest in real estate, getting really big is an example of like the story of Frankenstein, where the scientist, was brilliant and created this, this ability to like bring something to life. And he brought the whole story. This horror story was Frankenstein wakes up and looks at the scientist who did it, and then became a horror story from then on because he lost control of this thing that he created. And I feel like business is very often like that. And this doesn't have anything to do with Brandon or anything else. This has to do with my own experience, is that you create this business that's going to provide amazing things for you, but when it gets too big or it goes too fast, then it can get out of control. And I think that it's oversold. Like, so that my one reason my heart is with small and mighty investors is because very often the narrative is you have to get bigger, you have to go faster, you have to 10x, the whole Grant Cardone thing. I got so sick of hearing it because I see most of the people I know who have the best lives I've ever known. My father and mother who invested in real estate, invested in properties. A lot of my mentors, these people behind the scenes that I've seen who have amazingly flexible lives, were not the people on YouTube with the biggest followings. They weren't the people with the most properties. They just had enough, and they had an abundance of time and flexibility. And so I think that quote's really right on, because it can take over things if you're not keeping your money, your properties in their proper place, like, which is they should serve your life. Like, they should help you help your family, but also help you help other people. Like, it's kind of a full circle thing. One of the biggest joys of my life has been having the freedom and the flexibility to then say, you know what, now that I have an abundance of time, like, what do I want to contribute? Like, what do I want to use my talents for? I want to write a book. I want to help people. I want to serve people. I want to volunteer in my community. I want to be more present as a dad in my case. That's my personal story, but I think everybody has those stories. If they're really honest with themselves, they would make a list of things they wanted to do, and many of those don't have anything to do with money. Money is just like the thing. Once you get money out of the way, then it opens up all of those other options.
Yeah, when I think about Brandon Turner, and again, I paralyze it, or my parallel is me. Right. I would argue that Brandon Turner for a time was the most successful real estate investor, at least the most well-known. Right. He had the golden spoon, and he was small and mighty. Right. He had duplexes and these other things. And when he was in Washington, and then he had the good life when he moved to Hawaii. He's writing books, I'm sure, printing money. But then again, I think like his quote said, it went from being a useful servant to a vicious God. And, suddenly he's talking about being a billionaire. And I want to talk about that because I think a lot of folks who are type A, successful, driven, they get to that point where they have enough, but then I don't know if it's ego. I don't know if it's social media. I don't know what it is, but some people choose to just move the goalpost and thus create Frankenstein, and others choose a life of essentially luxury and time and all of those things because they're not really, they're not 10xing, to your point. So talk about that decision point, because I do think it's almost binary, right? You get to some marker, you choose a path of time, you choose some marker, I got to go bigger because I can.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I mean, I am glad there's really super ambitious people in our world. Like I think the United States and the West, not just the West, but all over capitalism in general, I think is pretty cool because it has room for a lot of different types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I don't know. I want to like separate, like, I don't know what Brandon's situation is or anything
Sure.
going on, but I do know people who go really big. When you make it big, it's amazing, but there's also bigger risks. So like, you use the Elon Musk kind of story too. Like he does amazing things, but man, there were moments when Tesla was on the verge
couple of times
of being gone. So I mean, every person who achieves great things in the capitalism system is on the precipice of going the other way, and that's just the way it is. Like, so I think anybody who gets into the game who's super ambitious knows that. I think what's more the fork in the road that you're talking about is really important because we're in a unique situation where you don't have to take all that risk in order to have an amazing life. Like this is such an abundant society we live in that you can take little bitty deals. Like to quote somebody, I wrote a book called One Rental at a Time. You can take one little rental at a time and that can accomplish all of your dreams.
Yeah. Over a decade, it's just done. Yeah.
It's amazing. So I think I would just separate, like, I am glad there are people who move society forward. I don't know what pushes people to do that. I don't know what their motivation is because there's a lot of sacrifice. I mean,
sure.
I don't want to be Elon Musk. I promise you, like in terms of just personal life and celebrity and all that stuff, like that is not what most of us want. Yeah. But, you can make an argument that some of the technology and societies move forward, but for most of us, we need we want to be with our family. We want to go on some vacations. We want to serve our local community. And so I speak for myself like that.
Sure.
If you value that, then don't take the medicine, the bait that you have to go big and you have to do more because it's just not necessary.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about you, right? Because again, I think I think if you're on this journey of building wealth, there will be a moment in time where, you have enough, you frankly have more than enough, right? You're comfortable.
Yeah.
And, you can choose again. I see it as two choices. You either keep cranking because you're good at what you do, right? You have not only a proof of concept, but now you have, validation because it's working, and you could just set a new goalpost. But like you say, the Frankenstein can get away from you, right? Go to a new market, try a new thing, do this or do that. And you really can risk it all. And then there's others that just choose to do something else, right? You chose, one of the things that you took on that I've seen you post about is this bike path or running path. And, that's not a paid exercise, but it's meaningful for the community, right? I saw you do a 5K run around it on I don't know what, YouTube or Instagram or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, he did it. Congratulations. So talk about that.
Yeah, I think ambition can be channeled in a lot of different ways. Like, so I'm gonna put up front, like I'm a very driven, ambitious person still to this day. Like you are too, right? And so I think that's one of the misnomers for all of our A types in the room who say, well, what if I like work, I like growing, I like doing all this. What I say, like, separate your wealth from your ambition. And like what I wrote about in the Small and Mighty Investor is like step number one is to create an income floor, like to create this like castle around the center of your wealth. And you're super conservative with that. It's like, to use a football metaphor, it's like you're winning, you're in the third quarter of the football game and you're winning by 5 touchdowns. That's what it means to be wealthy and to have enough. And so why would you keep going with all your core amount of money? Why would you keep throwing Hail Mary passes that risk losing the game when you're up by 5 touchdowns? Like, so with your core wealth, just run the ball.
Run the ball right up the middle.
Be conservative. And if you happen to be in your 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever age you want to say is like old enough, at some point you need to start taking a knee. Like, don't take any risk. Like,
Yeah.
you just need to take. I'm not at the point, I was fortunate enough to have financial freedom in my 30s, late 30s. So I'm like, I won in the second quarter. Like,
Right.
so I'm not going to be like crazy, conservative, but I'm also, so I don't have no debt. Like, I still have some debt. I'm still thinking about inflation. Inflation is more of a risk to me than like losing everything. So I'm thinking about both, but you have to know like where you are in your life. But no matter what, I think taking chips off the table and saying this center of my wealth, I am not going to put that at risk. But you can be ambitious on the outside of that. And I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. There's a guy I admire in California named Mike Cantu. He's been in the business for like 4 or 5
I love
decades.
Mike. Mike's
Yes,
amazing.
yeah. So he is. I have not met him in person. I've talked to him, but his story to me is so inspiring because he was flipping houses, doing all the stuff we always do, and he had a mentor who was like, "You always use leverage. You always keep growing." But he sold a bunch of properties or land or something, and he took that money and he paid off like 10 or 15 properties. I don't know how many it was, and each property had like a job description. He's
It
like,
has a
"This
purpose. Yes. This is
this
Mike Cantor. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
this property is going to pay for health insurance. This property is going to pay for my travel.
Electricity.
This
And
is my
yeah. Yeah.
electricity. This."
Yeah.
So every one of them had a core life purpose. That income was inflation hedged, but he paid them off, and that was his core. And his mentor was like, "When did I ever tell you that was a good idea to pay off debt? That's the stupidest thing you could ever done." But from a like long-term perspective, he did that. It gave him a base. And then
Mhm.
from then on, he's still been aggressive. He's still been ambitious. He's been flipping houses. So he never slowed down. But having in the back of your mind, knowing that you are good, you've got enough, you got that taken care of, then you can go to like plan B of your life, saying, well, what do I want to do now? Like, for him, it was flipping houses and wholesaling. That's cool. He liked that. For
Hmm.
me, it's been writing, teaching, YouTubing, writing books, building a Green Crescent Trail, trying to build a network, a super ambitious idea that I'm investing money in. We've raised millions of dollars from local cities and building, like, that's a legacy project. It's
Yeah.
cool. It helps people's health in my community. It matters to me. It's actually, it's much harder than any of my real estate stuff. It's like been the hardest project outside of parenting, maybe, that I've ever taken on, has been trying to organize and help support this thing, because it's like so slow, and local government moves slow, and everybody's, understandably, democracy is a little bit messy, so you got to wait for things to happen. And so, but that's been amazing. It's been amazingly gratifying and satisfying, and I think that's ambitious. That counts too. That's, even though I'm not making $1 billion on that, I don't care. Like, whatever. It's something that's super satisfying.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple of things that I want to kind of peel back on, and we can go in any order you want. I would talk about that income floor a little bit more about Mike Cantu and having assets dedicated to things, because I think that provides the ultimate freedom.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we'll start with this last thing that you brought up, is when you have that income floor and you're quote unquote good, you can choose your passions, and your passions don't have to be about money.
Mm-hmm.
It can be about legacy. It can be about other things. And I don't think enough people appreciate that pivot, but it's an important one, because once you and your family are money good, the options that come to you for time and energy, and yes, maybe some money, are plentiful. You just got to be on the look for them. Like, what really moves the needle for you? Like, what gets the juices flowing? And for you, it's the path, the bike path, and all of that. So, talk about those.
I think sometimes you gotta, I'm speaking for myself again, like when you work, you go into high school, college, you have this path that's written for you, like go to the next step, And then if you don't go into college, you go into the workforce. And after college, it's like there's this ladder that you're supposed to do in society. And you kind of get out of the habit of imagining what your life could look like and what kind of activities you would do. So I think a lot of it's just the imagination thing. Like, what would you do if you waved your magic wand and you could do whatever you want to do with your day? Like, what projects would you be involved in? What problems would you try to solve in your community? Like, that's such a good brainstorming exercise. I do it pretty often, like at least once a year, thinking like, what, but that's the kind of thing that it's like that little inkling in your gut. You're like, that's the thing when I was 10 years old, I thought I would do that. Maybe it was playing basketball. Maybe it was starting a nonprofit. Maybe it was being a parent. Like, there's these things that we have that we kind of suppress, I think, because they're not practical and they're not like the way that makes money or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the reason, one of the reasons you achieve financial freedom is so that you can nurture those little things that if you suppress them, that's like, there's a psychologist, I forget his name. It was the hierarchy of needs, Maslow.
Maslow hierarchy needs.
Maslow talks about like you get the basic stuff, you get the food, you get the shelter, you get
food, water, shelter. Yep.
You get your relationships, you get your base things, but then there's these higher needs that kind of stack on top of those. And one of those is to be self-actualized.
Yes.
Meaning what you can be, you must be. Like it's not, it's like soul oxygen. And if you suppress that, you're gonna regret that on your deathbed. You're gonna be thinking about it like, yeah, I could have been a writer. I could have built this thing. I could have done this thing. And so I think that's one of the coolest parts about being financially independent or on the path to financial independence is you can start imagining, what am I going to be when I grow up? What am I going to do when I'm 50, 60, whatever age you want to shoot for? That's a cool opportunity that it's wide open to you.
Yeah, let's break down that brain. I'd love to talk about this brainstorming thing that you do once a year, maybe a couple times a year.
Yeah.
Because I want to give the audience, an action item to kind of do that. So how do you do it? Do you get somewhere quiet? Do you get a notepad? Do you go for a run? How does Chad do this brainstorming? You've done it several times, clearly.
Yeah, in the beginning of the year, I had this kind of reflection where I look back on the past year and I just say, how did things go? What's that look like? I used to do goals every year, but I try to do like quarterly goals now. This kind of works more for me. So the annual report, annual like reflection is just more like life in general, like what's important to me, what's going well, what's not going well. But it's simple. It's like I have these big notepads. Let me show you this thing. So if people watch on YouTube, like I have these like big drawing pads.
Yeah, that's not just 8.5 by 11. That's a big old one.
For whatever this works for me. I used to draw as a kid and sketch a lot, so I'm just very visual. And I'll do these like mind maps.
Oh wow, look at that!
I carry it around with me all the time, and that works for me. Like I think a big piece of paper, turn the cell phone off, get somewhere. Drink a cup of coffee if you're a coffee drinker. Take a walk if it kind of helps you get your mind. But just give yourself 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, and ask yourself the question. This is the question, the cue I like. If money were not an issue, if you could wave your magic wand and like money was not the obstacle, everything was taken care of, you're good. What would you do with your time? What would your days look like? What activities would you do? And just brainstorm. Like this is one of those activities, like there's no right answer. So just make a list, mind map, brainstorm it, and make this do it over multiple sessions. But I've found so many gems when I do that from in my early 20s thinking like, I would regret it if I wasn't a parent, like I didn't have kids at some point. Like that was kind of a surprise to me. Okay, well, that's interesting. Like that's something, put that on the list.
Put that on the list.
But it's one of those things that you just sort of, they're not the most urgent thing in your life, but like they're often the most important if you like allow yourself to like write it down in journal. So I'm big on journaling. I think like just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you don't have to get crazy with it. Just have a piece of paper, what's on your mind? What are you grateful for? What are the things you're looking to do? There's a lot of different journaling exercises, but that particular cue, I think for this conversation is really helpful.
If money was not an issue, what would you do with your time?
Yeah.
I like it. Folks, do me a favor. Leave some things in the comments below. What would you do with your time? I want to see where my audience is at. What would they be doing? Coach, you're amazing. Thanks again for coming out to year 4. I love the fact you're going to go deeper on your topic from year 1. Again, we've done 3 years and your presentation from year 1 is still talked about among the audience. So love to have you back. Where can people find you?
Coach Carson on all channels, YouTube. I have a new episode that comes out every Monday, so check me out there and leave a comment below. I will definitely come back to this video. I would love to hear from all of you. What's on your mind? What do you want to do if money were not an issue? How would you spend your time? I'm very curious.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what my audience has to say. All right, folks, don't disappoint. Leave the comments below. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Michael.